Hello everybody and welcome back to I almost said PANDORA'S games. Hello everybody and welcome back to Handsum German, the only show on the internet. Today I'm presenting to you Mayhem Brawler, which is exactly what it looks like if you feast your eyes on this rather nice comic book style art. You will see that it is an old school beat 'em up game. And I just literally explained the whole thing. You walk, you punch, you pick up items, you pick up turkey you find in a trash can, you throw people into other people, and you have a special attack that you can use every now and again. And the developer hero concept was going for exactly that and nothing else. So if you enjoyed the beat-em-up games that came out over the last 30, 40 years, however long it's been at this point, then there's definitely a lot to enjoy with Mayhem Brawler, which is maybe not the most memorable title. It sounds more like a prototype than a full-fledged release. But considering what's at display here, the game actually has a decent amount of stuff to do. Obviously, since it is an old school style beat 'em up, you can probably complete one playthrough in about an hour, maybe a little more depending on the difficulty you play at and depending on how much experience you have with the genre. Because very much any skills you have acquired in the past are 100% applicable to this title. And I'm really trying to think of original things that the game does in terms of gameplay. And I honestly don't think I've played enough beat-em-ups to really be able to tell. There is an interesting-ish system with different status effects that can be inflicted on enemies and player characters. You can break them, which means they're going to take more damage going forward for a little while, for as long as it's active. You can cause them to bleed, which is not a damage over time effect, and the loading screens are usually so quick that by the time I realize that, oh, it's the loading screen tip about bleed, I am far too late and just missed the whole thing. So I don't know what bleed does. I know that enemies with regeneration are immune to it because that loading screen tip shows up a lot. Don't know what bleed does. Doesn't really matter. You can turn off all these icons like the little duck that indicates that somebody just got stunned, or I believe also the exclamation points that warn you of a long-range attack that's about to happen. Which there are several different enemies in the game that have one of those attacks each, some of which require you to just step to the side, others require you to block, and there's even some that require you to turn around and block to avoid them, which I thought was kind of nifty. Something that you're going to see a lot, and the main reason you're going to want to keep these icons turned on is the payback mechanic, where some enemies, oftentimes bosses and elite enemies like werewolves and vampires, will have this little fist icon when they're about to get up, which means that they're about to execute an incredibly damaging attack that you might want to just run away from. There's no real point in trying to just stand there and take it, which would be really silly. Ranged enemies in this game can be very annoying at times. Obviously, these simple security guys with just a pistol, they're fairly harmless. But later on, when there's people with automatic weapons or people with fireballs and other magic spells, those can get really infuriating, especially considering how much the game likes spawning in one on each side, and then you knock over the one on the right, and then you wait for that one to get back up, and in the meantime the one on the left charges up a shot right as you're in the middle of a combo, and then it leaves you vulnerable, and while this game does definitely feel very button mashy at times, oftentimes you actually have to pay attention to what's happening, otherwise you're going to get horribly wombo comboed by a combination of melee and melee and ranged attacks. I was gonna say melee and melee, but that doesn't make any sense. By ranged and melee attacks, which can really screw you over very quickly, since just like all the enemies, you're very much vulnerable while you're being juggled. Now, this game has up to 3-player co-op with the 3 different characters. I don't actually know if you can pick the same character twice, but I don't know. Doesn't really matter right now. And the multiplayer does add kind of a nice level of, you know, cooperation to everything. I didn't notice an increase in the number of enemies, but I do think they deal more damage when you have multiple players. I'm honestly not entirely sure. I only played it in co-op for a little bit since, you know, it's hard to come by beat-em-up co-op partners locally these days in uncertain times, as they used to say. Now, one thing that is kind of interesting, and I don't know how many other games have done something like this, probably a lot of them, is the combo system, where every time you inflict damage or pick up an item, your green little combo meter in the top right goes up, and you can collect a number of hits, and after certain milestones your combo becomes a whole lot more valuable. You get an extra life for every 6,000 points you collect. Those don't carry over in the standard campaign mode, but I imagine they do in the arcade mode, where you just have one try to get through everything. So no extra credits for you. Thank goodness, the channel is terrible now. What's interesting about it is that if your combo meter runs out, you bank the combo that you currently have going on. And this can get really crazy. Like, I managed to get a 60 plus hit combo, and it was worth 6,000 points. So I got an entire extra life off of a single extended combo against, you know, multiple enemies, obviously, since they don't survive that long. But if you get hit in the middle of your combo, you just lose it all. You still keep all the little points you get, the individual 20-30 points for punching people, but your combo just disappears. Even if you have 80 hits, if you get greedy and you just keep pushing forward, you're gonna lose it all. So that's definitely a nice little element of balance, where I did start on my second playthrough banking certain combos early when I knew that there were about to be enemy combinations that I struggle with, especially a lot of were crocodiles and gators and what have you. Most of the were enemies are pretty nasty. Another thing that you can do besides punching, as you may have seen, is a special attack, which, you know, uses the blue bar. And what's special about it, outside of it doing damage, is that you can that you become invulnerable for its duration, which means that it's an excellent way of countering strong enemy attacks, and it's also really useful whenever you're grappled. You can just break free by just pressing Y, provided you have picked up enough of the blue energy, which you get from punching people, taking damage, and eating sugary food, which, again, you find in trash cans, like these pancakes, which conveniently showed up to illustrate my point. Thank you, pancakes. So that's a huge power-up. And there you just saw the werewolf grabbed me, and I instantly countered it with the special attack. Now, the characters play reasonably differently in that which parts of their combos actually launch enemies or knock them down is very different. which of their attacks are launchers, in fact, is very different. So for example, the dash attack you just saw, the backflip, is Trouble. That's his name. Good thing it says it in the top left because the names aren't great for the characters. So as you saw, the kickflip that I just did is Trouble's launcher, which you can then use to get a couple extra hits in before the enemy hits the ground. The standard standing jump attack is the launcher of the girl character, which obligatorily is the fast one. That's the one. Yep, skipping past the story for reasons I'll explain later. And the big guy, the grappler, who can do suplexes and pile drivers. So if that's what you're looking for, yeah, there's a character who can do both of those, and it's excellent. His launcher is his forward special attack. So everyone just kind of plays slightly differently, but once you have figured out how to play one of them, the others should come fairly naturally. I mentioned briefly before, the game, in my opinion at least, looks absolutely fantastic. I absolutely love the art style. I love the variety that's on display here. You saw that in the first level it was all just thugs and and roller derby athletes. Here it's thugs and werewolves and weregators. And something that I really appreciate is the fact that Hero Concept absolutely did not care how many cliche tick boxes they were checking. Because this game goes from, oh yeah, no, it's werewolves, to, oh, you're gonna have to go through the subway and there's the wizards and there's arcane hoodlums. Which, as, like, honestly, I'm kind of bummed that I recently rebranded to Handsum German. Otherwise, I would have gone with Arcane Hoodlum, honestly. That's a beautiful name for anything, I think. If we ever get another cat, if I ever have another child, I'm going to consider Arcane Hoodlum. No! And once you're past the wizards, it's immediately like, oh, maybe it's the other way around. Yeah, no, next up is actually vampires, which, you know, why not? There's werewolves, so there's vampires. And then it's immediately followed up by, hey, you know that one part of the city that was closed off because a miniature zombie apocalypse happened there? And it's like, yep, that sounds about right. They just decided to cram in as many edgy comic book stereotypes as they could into a single game. And why am I doing? Oh yeah, I'm gonna change character. I was like, oh no, what am I doing? I'm switching character, I believe. Something that's a little strange is the fact that if you exit out of a level, then it takes you back to the ending cutscene of the previous stage, which does have the nice side effect that if you accidentally pick the wrong level, because, you know, you get to make choices after every stage, then you can quit out and pick a different one. That was actually really convenient to have, considering that I wanted to get all three different endings, and if you were to make a wrong choice and then be stuck with it for the rest of the playthrough, that would be incredibly infuriating. So that's kind of a nice little quirk that I don't know if it was entirely intentional for just this purpose or if it's just a happy coincidence, but I'm cool with it. So here I'm playing Dolphin, who is, I believe, kind of like a genie? There's enemies called Medjins, and they're not international, that's an understatement, interdimensional refugees. And so, you know, there's that too. There's racism and the refugee crisis going on in this game, because it really, like, wants to tick every single thing that exists. And that kind of bleeds over into the writing, where the world that I've created is hilarious and stupid, and I actually really like it. just because... Oh, community managers are about to get roasted. Oh, damn. So if you're a community manager and you're currently looking at my content to see if I'm a good fit to review your game, you just got roasted by the game, not by me, so that's not my fault. Anyway, it is a ridiculous world where vampires and zombies and cyborgs and psychics and interdimensional refugees and private military companies are all conspiring to create some kind of chaos device that bends the laws of probability. And I just, like, told you the entire plot of the game, and you have no idea what I just said. And I kind of love that, because it's complete nonsense. That being said, the actual dialogue in this game is absolutely horrendous. They try to make you laugh a lot, and they don't take themselves seriously at all, which at least is very nice. It would be even more depressing if the writing was terrible and they were trying to be very serious. But for the most part, it's just references to things, and then characters acknowledging that something is a reference. And that's really dumb. When I played the second to last level on my first playthrough, I got to the boss of that level, and the boss made a reference to, oh, maybe we're all stuck in a beat-em-up game. And I was like, okay. Well, and then I lost, and then I decided to pick the game up again the next day, and picked the second option for the second to last level. And in that level, a character said, hey, do you ever feel like we're stuck in a beat-em-up game? And it's like, yeah, you are, but you know, just acknowledging that twice in two different levels that I unfortunately played back to back doesn't really count as, you know, comedy. Oh, I absolutely love this. The get-up animation on the Nosferatu boss is hilarious, and very much intentionally so. It's just one of the little things that this game does really well, where a lot of enemy types and a lot of bosses have just this tiny bit of personality in their animations. Like, there's these MC Mijins who will smile and hold up their hands when you grab them, as if to be like, hey, we're friends, right? And that has just tons of personality. While on the other end, the vampires are incredibly edgy and cool and strike cool poses before attacking. And that's just kind of nifty. I like that. I like that a lot. Anyway, back to the writing. It's not good. The dialogue is not great, and honestly, I wouldn't blame you if you went into the options and disabled the dialogue during missions at least, because, especially if you fail a mission and have to play through it again, you can only cringe so many times at them making a Hadouken reference, and then one character laughing and then another character saying something incredibly racist. That's kind of the other thing about this game, where none of the main characters are particularly likable, and I don't know how much of that is on purpose. I definitely think that Trouble, the werewolf you saw me playing at first, the guy with the mustache, he's definitely supposed to be a bit of a questionable character considering how incredibly racist he is. Which, you know, maybe that's a little too accurate, maybe it's a little too realistic for this cartoon world, but you know. The girl character is extremely obsessed with social media and being a pretentious Tumblr teenager. So she's definitely not, you know, despicable, but she's pretty annoying, to say the least. She uses the word gender fluid incorrectly, which was very strange considering that she's supposed to be this modern internet person. And I'm not gonna spoil how that even happens, why that term even came up, unless this commentary lasts until the end of this level, in which case you're gonna find out.
Why did we choose this one?
And Dolphin, the big guy that I'm playing as right now, he just makes a lot of really bad jokes and talks in a very loud and grating voice. He's definitely the most likable out of all of them, but, you know, he's still pretty annoying, which is a shame considering that annoying is the worst thing a character can be, especially when you're talking to someone like me who unironically thinks that Slippy Toad is a great character and, you know, an incredibly capable member of the Star Fox team. So there's the arcane hoodlums I talked about, and they absolutely nailed this strange blend of them being wizards but also thugs with their hoodies that kind of remind you of robes. Oh, there's the MC Majins. Let's see if I actually grab one of them and you can see the animation that I absolutely love. Another thing that the game actually gets a lot of props for is that this animation of a train coming in and letting people out, I mean, it's not really much of an animation, it's just something sliding across, but they only use it this one time. They were really generous when it comes to what they use their art budget for.
Hey Star, I follow all
They
accounts.
Yeah, they loop the same train, but it's not like you're going to get another train in the next 5 minutes. This is the only one in the entire game. And the fact that they also included 3 separate endings. Oh, if you didn't see that, that animation is beautiful. I'm just like smiling nervously. I absolutely adore it. And considering that they have 3 different endings and that on your first playthrough you're probably going to miss, I think, 3 levels, it shows a nice bit of healthy confidence in the fact that the player is going to enjoy this game if they like beat-em-ups, because they were willing to have missable content, which a lot of games are very afraid of.
He was shouting,
Yeah, there's the Hadouken line. You know, it's... yeah.
drunk to me.
So, you know, Trouble is not the most sympathetic character. Where was I? Anyway, yeah, it's nice to see a game that really revels in what it is the point that I've been working up to this whole time. It kind of sucks that the jokes are pretty terrible, to the point where one of the characters literally exclaims, "I understood that reference," which annoyingly is a reference in and of itself. So, you know, cue Inception horns. But the world, the way it looks, the way it functions, where every single horrible thing you can imagine exists, where there are were-rat slums and arcane hoodlums, it's just kind of silly, dumb fun. And you can also do that body splash move, so it's fun to do. I wonder if I actually do it. I used that body splash dash attack a lot on my first playthrough, and then on my second one I realized that it's terrible, and the only thing it really does is buy you some time. I get stuck. So that's all there really is about this game. It has some commentary about police violence in it, about how the public perceives it, when it is and isn't justified, and it does strike some interesting gray areas there, because during the cutscenes you actually see certain members of the public reacting to the events on, again, social media. which creates this interesting, constant feeling of
That's none of your
you very much not being welcome here, which is underlined by the fact that none of the characters are particularly likable. And that's kind of why I wonder if that was done intentionally. In conclusion, if you like old school beat 'em ups, this is one of them. I don't think it does anything mind-blowingly amazing in terms of storytelling or gameplay, but it goes all out and does the best it can to be exactly what it wanted to be. I like the music. There's 4 difficulty settings that you can play through. I stuck to the default one because I'm not a very experienced beat 'em up player at all. But if the game seems too easy for you and you're screaming at your screen telling me that I'm terrible at it, then, you know, you can try it on a higher difficulty, see how you do. This is where I figured out that you can theoretically permanently stun lock any enemy by just body splashing onto them, but I ended up not doing that because that would take forever. So yeah, pick it up if you like old school beat 'em ups. That's what I'm saying. It's a good one. I think it's a solid one. I really liked it. It's absolutely gorgeous. And yeah, it's hilariously stupid, albeit not in the ways it intended to be. Thank you very much for watching. Make sure you subscribe if you want to hear more about games that might not even be on the radar of some of the larger channels you're already subscribed to. And leave a comment telling me what your special move would be in a beat 'em up. And, you know, I'm gonna regret that. I'm gonna regret saying that. I'll see you next time. Goodbye.